All right, we're in. Welcome to the pod, everyone. I'm Dawufi. This is Vibe Check. I am so excited about this one. Well, I have a name for the podcast now. I think I'm pretty much settled on Vibe Check, so I'll get your feedback on that in a little bit. But as the Vibe architect, I was talking with Zach Harris. He said it has to be that. So I'm really excited to be here. Dan and Jack, two of my favorite people in the Farcaster ecosystem. I don't know if I've told you this, Jack, but whenever anyone asks me how long I've been on Farcaster, I basically guide it back to last ETH Denver, which is when I kind of like officially feel like I came into my own on Farcaster when we met. And you were like, oh yeah, I just quit my job. I'm gonna work on some stuff. I was like, it's really vague, but that was Icebreaker, right? Or at least
it was. Yeah, it was. I think we had we formally incorporated in December of 2022. So that was February of 2023. Yeah. So we had I think we had our proto breaker demo at that point, and it wasn't clear exact. I didn't have my pitch down, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you were purposely avoiding it with me. Sorry, what was that, Dan?
We didn't even know what we were building then.
Yeah, we were in experiment phase.
Yeah.
Launching and deploying NFTs on ETH mainnet as like the start for our community.
Yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere, right? And community is definitely what I want to dig into. I guess, Dan, if you want to start, I'm very curious because I've heard of a lot of obviously Jack's side, but the sort of your background, how you met Jack, how this whole thing started, and then we'll dig into more Farcaster stuff and where you've seen growth and sort of, I think very specifically, like what's the Icebreaker tribe? Like, how do you communicate with them? How do you find them? And like, what does that all mean? Dan, you want to start?
Yeah, lots of good questions. So I'll just start and then we can kind of answer the about Icebreaker stuff later. But my background is I started out and while I was in college, got startup pilled. So this is the most exciting, amazing thing. I'm going to just do that. Realize it's really hard. So out of college, then I did consulting in telecommunications, media, and technology for about 4 years, because at the time, that was how I thought I could get good exposure to a lot of different companies. And while I was there, I basically saw the rise of the smartphone and how early on a bunch of people in tech and telcos were looking at it being like, it's just a fad. But being able to look at the numbers and project, there's actually going to be 1 billion plus smartphones in a couple of years from now. And then people just like laughing and they're like, fine, we'll do a smartphone thing. And then, sure enough, all of the apps that emerged on top of that and how the world has changed. This is obviously dating me, but going back to like 2010. And then I went back into startups after doing consulting for a couple of years, and then had an offer to PM at Google. And I thought I'd be there for a year before going back into startups. But 1 year turned into 8 because I got to PM some really interesting products that I was passionate about, which was the cross identity measurement and marketing stack at Google. And built that out and inadvertently contributed to sort of Web2's data monopoly, because we launched some features that are now like feeding that system. And then got crypto pilled around 2019. And when I saw the DeFi summer and then NFT spring, got really, really excited that this is how I started my career with mobile phones. It's the same thing. And now I'm actually in a place where I can build something cool and help create this future that is really, really exciting that we're about to go through. So at first I tried to get Google to do it. And that's like a fun side story we can talk about. We did get them to agree to do a research project, but it was like a research project for 2 years with a bunch of PowerPoint presentations. And meanwhile, on Bankless Forum, one day they were posting a comment thread about, are NFTs a scam or a fad? And I said emphatically, no, there are some really, really cool use cases. I love collecting stuff. I used to play like Diablo 2. I made my first $1,000 selling Diablo items on eBay. And so like I knew that this is a thing. And then somebody agreed with me in the comments, and I looked that guy up. We had like some back and forth, and it said UX designer at Google. So I actually reached out to him internally at Google, and that was Jack. my co-founder, and we started talking about how we loved NFTs. And fast forward, we both left Google at the same time to go into crypto. I went to Coinbase, he went to Seasons, and then about a year and a half later, I started getting really excited that the next phase of applications can now be built using these amazing primitives and infrastructure that have been developed over the last kind of bull market. And that when you combine decentralized identity with zero knowledge proofs and other things, you can actually solve the problems in digital marketing that I thought were unsolvable. And so that's kind of the origin story of when Jack and I started talking about Icebreaker.
That's awesome. I actually assume that you guys just like knew each other at Google for a long time. It's really funny that it's like very Web3 to like meet on a Bankless forum instead in like in a Web2 company. Be like, oh, I guess we'll have to use these internal tools to communicate and figure stuff out.
Not only that, but we had worked one building apart for like 5 years and had never met. Like we realized we were like literally one building apart on the Google campus in Mountain View for 5 years and hadn't met each other. So it was bound to happen somehow.
Yeah, it's funny how those things always stretch out. And so I thought it was interesting how you said you got crypto built in 2019 as well, because I feel like, and I've run into this a lot. I was talking with Colin about this as well in the last episode. Like the Farcaster quote unquote OGs are like very frequently not like people who got into it in 2013. Like Dan's talked a lot about these incentives about like there's like new structure. Is like if you have like 200,000 followers on Twitter, you're probably less incentivized to actually come over. My guess is some of that's happening with Icebreaker as well. But Jack, anything to add about the origin story? You want to give a little bit about your background as well? Because I mean, I love both of you. I think it's really interesting to see that like, you're both NFT degens and all this stuff, but like Jack's the one who's like the Farcaster guy, right? Like I see you getting more active though, Dan, and I do appreciate that. But I do feel like, leveraging someone's audience is really important. And then, Jack, you got a pretty monster one. Although we've had some discussions about the algo boosting as well, so we can get into some of that too. But Jack, what's your Farcaster history, at least now that we've got the background on Icebreaker?
Yeah. Farcaster history. Actually, another Google guy got me into it. This guy I just knows. He's now the like lead of generative AI at YouTube UX, and he just like knows things. He's like the master of whispers. I don't know how he knows these things, but he was like, yo, you have to get on this app right now. It's like on fire in Silicon Valley. And I was like, okay, you tell me, I'm on it. So I joined, and that was 2021, 2. I don't actually. I mean, it had to be 2022, I guess. Right. Anyway, FID 431. So I joined, and it's like, it was like empty. I was like, meh, like there's nothing going on here. This is kind of like, all right, I guess there's a couple like VCs casting. That's cool, I guess. I didn't even like say casting. I was just like, whatever.
They're tweeting.
Yeah, and there was a little bit, but it was like dead. It was like you would look at the app and there was nothing happening, and I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing happening here, so bye, And then I was literally just like walking down the street in New York, and I was like, how is that purple app doing? I wonder. Just out of the blue, and it was just like popping off, or like popping off. They were like literally, more than 100 casts a day, which at the time was a lot, right? And you're like, oh, this is actually okay. There's like a little scene here. This is really fun. And at that time, they had there was actually an exposed leaderboard, the center tab that's now like, I don't even know what it is. I literally never clicked that thing. The flame, what is that? Trending? Yeah, trending, I guess. I don't use trending. But that was an explicit leaderboard. It was the top 50 rank. Yeah. And I was like, all right, time to reply guy into this. And also, like, this is to your point earlier, I had never had, I never clicked on Twitter. Like Twitter, I felt like I was just, the metaphor was like throwing a post-it note into a hurricane. That's how I felt. Like I was like, I don't understand the nuances. I don't understand like how the social works. I never fit there. And then, but like Farcaster, I was like, oh, okay, well, there's nobody here, so it doesn't matter anyway. And then I was just like having fun and just like being myself in a way that like Twitter always felt too performative, or like, people are like watching, like investors are following, blah, blah. So that was like my own battle. Anyway, so I was just having a lot of fun on Farcaster, and reply guide my way into the leaderboard, and then after that it was just the number goes up, right? Like people just started like avalanching in of, you know, like 1,000 people a month or whatever. You know, if you look at the chart now, this is the flat part of the chart. And then yeah, and then it was like, these people are really cool, and like I get to talk to people that I would never get to talk to otherwise, like VCs and builders, and the Scenius, as Adrian coined, took shape. And then it, you know, like it was literally just where I was spending all my time online, and that culminated in us doing our pre-alpha at FarCon 1 last year. That was our very first cards ever, where you got your, you know, your legendary transparent. You have it?
I know. I have the metal one right now.
Nice,
but,
nice.
I do keep. I think I keep that one. What is effectively
that's it. That's in your vault, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's down in your bank vault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that was kind of the backstory for getting into Farcaster. There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
FarCon 1 was crazy. I'm excited.
Oh, and the clear. There's the clear. I didn't know we had any of those left.
Yeah. Collector's items.
Literary.
Yeah.
Yeah, FarCon 1 was dope. I remember you guys, or at least Jack was handing out a bunch of stuff there. People were excited. I think you guys have tapped into some very interesting things with Icebreaker, especially as I think about like tribes and vibes and like what makes like a great, like, I would consider you guys like Farcaster native, let's call it, at least, right? Like it's a Farcaster native product. A lot of the distributions there, it seems like, although it seems like you guys are also pushing out a little bit right now, but I'm super curious to hear just like kind of short thoughts from both of you. Like what makes a good icebreaker? Like who should be joining this? Cause like, I'm sort of obsessed with the idea right now. And Jack, I appreciate all the support you give me on like my random, like I had a cast today. It's like, does it suck or is it not for you? Right? Like I've been thinking a lot about the idea, especially to talk to more people about their go-to-market. Like this shouldn't be for everyone. Like everything isn't for everyone. It's an insane idea, but like there's so few users in crypto that I think people assume that like this is better for everyone because the incentives are better. And it's like, dog, it's earlier, your UX sucks. Like you need to go cross-train. Like if you don't have like OP degen tokens, it's not going to work. Like it's not everything's for everyone, right? And I think you guys get that pretty deeply. Like who's Icebreaker for? Like who's it not for right now?
So yeah, maybe I will paint a picture of what we founded Icebreaker for, and then kind of how we decided where we would go first.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've ever really shared this before. So originally we thought the opportunity is that you could basically, all of the tracking that happens on the internet and all of the bad ads and all of the cookies that follow us around the internet should just be ripped out and replaced with basically an interoperable identity model that does not share your private data with anybody that you don't want to, and you can actually get personalized, whether it's ads or recommendations or whatever, in whatever app you're in based on whatever data you want to share. And our thought was, well, all we have to do is build this sort of ZK marketing platform on top of this, and then take the 70% cut of money that the Googles and the Metas take and redistribute it to primarily users, and then call it a day, and we're done. But what we realized is that if you just pay out the money, and we thought like crypto, trains us all to think about give tokens to people, and that solves the problem. And I think in some senses, its greatest unlock has been figuring out how to do incentive in a distributed way. But I think that also when you start building applications, now we're at the phase where we have a lot of L1s, and I'm sure there will be more L1s, but as we build applications, the things that worked for L1s may not be directly transferable to the applications that are built on top of them. And in fact, we actually suffer from this problem of like when you only have a hammer, every problem you see is a nail, right? So in crypto, we tend to see every problem as solvable with tokens. And we realized that actually, no, if you do that, you attract the wrong type of user. And so we had to be opinionated and really focus on, like, crypto is pretty small. It was even smaller then. We decided to start this company in the like depth of the bear market, which is insane to start a company in general, but starting it like at that time was also like doubly insane. But we figured if we could make it work, then it's real. And so we decided, let's start it then. And crypto is tiny, so you have to find something that works even if it's at a small number of users, that those users could be, like, the unit economics for those users could be very, very high if you can make it work. And there's a path to being able to do that outside of that group, right? So we basically looked at 4 different segments and decided the one that we want to focus on for a variety of reasons is the sort of LinkedIn use case among professionals in Web3. LinkedIn is not a good solution. It's not a good solution, in our opinion, for a variety of reasons for basically anybody, because they are, like, their whole business model is predicated on making you pay to reach people that you should be able to reach for free anyway. And there are like subtle patterns in that. But we basically decided, you know what, if we can build something that is open, verifiable, and based on trust in Web3 professional networking, that could be really, really powerful. And nobody's done this yet. And it's not like LinkedIn is going to do this. And there are a number of other platforms that are doing more gamified reputation. But as somebody who's not super active on social media, I think a lot about the power of our reputation that is actually not apparent. But if you can call up somebody and have them answer and have them give you some really, really good advice, that's actually a lot of reputational capital too. And so that's our thinking, is like enable people to tap into their reputational capital starting in Web3 professionals.
Yeah, I didn't do this in the past episodes, but I'm trying to take stronger stances and make more waves because I think it makes for good content. And maybe this isn't particularly controversial in Web3, but the way I think of LinkedIn, and this is why I love you guys going after it, LinkedIn feels like, to me, the largest like low signal meetup in the world. And do you know what I'm talking about? You ever go to like a crypto meetup and it's like it's just completely filled with people who had nothing better to do, right?
Yeah,
like
the
Go ahead.
grifteronis. Yeah.
Grifteronis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
Grifter
It's like,
Central.
but like not even necessarily grifters, although those are definitely there. Like there's just the fully people who are like either not bought in or have some other weird incentive. They're trying to like signal to their friends that they're cool, or like they want to be seen as like whatever, a maverick, and they go home and just like watch the same Netflix show as everyone else. Like there's a lot of different ways to like sort of pinpoint this person out. And like part of me, like the growth person, is like, props to LinkedIn, take all their money. I don't really like interacting with those people. But there's another part of me that's like, it's just so bad. And like you talk about Twitter's performative, like I scroll through my LinkedIn feed regularly and it's like, this is nothing. This is 2 types of content I don't like from people that I don't like, and content that I know is just like disingenuous from people that I know are smarter than that. Right? Like that's pretty much exclusively what the content is like. Jack, any thoughts on why LinkedIn is so bad?
Yeah, it's inauthentic.
Yes.
That's like it's performative inauthenticity. That like, and that's why I like Farcaster so much at the beginning, is because I was like, oh wow, I'm just being authentic online for the first time, probably in like a place where I'm not getting crucified. like you know what I mean? Yeah, but like it's just, I mean, it's just noise, right? Like the signal to noise. There's almost no signal on LinkedIn, right?
Right.
And that's what I'm out here for, really. Like the signal in people, and when you find somebody that has signal, or has, everybody has like some slice of signal that they're like the signal about. I mean, maybe not everybody, but The people that were trying to,
Maybe not some of the LinkedIn.
yeah, right. Maybe not on LinkedIn, but like it's just yeah, it's it's stuff that's like not timely. It's like, it's like high five, yay, like you
Right.
got a new role, like that's cool, I guess, you know. Like I'm trying to build a business. Do you know any software developers that can help me? Like, that's the signal that I'm interested in and that we're interested in exploring. And you can't pull that out of LinkedIn in an easy way without paying them a ton of money,
Yeah.
Yeah,
even though it's
that's about,
our own experience and data.
yeah.
Yeah. You gonna add something, Dan?
Yeah, it costs $1,000 a month if you want to be able to search your network for people based on a role. Even if you're just paying the like $45 per month premium, they don't let you do that unless you're like very, very expert with the tool. So
Yeah, which is insanity. Absolutely.
yeah,
But I think we touched on something here with the authenticity that I'm also sort of obsessed with. So I've talked to a lot of people that were like, I saw someone cast actually, they were like, it was almost comical how positive, like the vibes were on Farcaster. Like now it's a little bit less obviously, but like 6 months to a year ago, it's like, is this some sort of fucking joke? Like they're not nowhere else on the internet. It's like, are these just all bots that are chat GPT trained to be like helping each other? But I think Dan really gets incentives and like tries to pull, like, if you start top down and like pull the right interesting people in, then it can filter out. Although all that's getting tested now, obviously. So with the growth of Farcaster, there must have been, I actually haven't talked to you guys about this, so I'm also curious about this as well. There's been a huge growth in Farcaster. There must have been some growth for Icebreaker. What's it been like sort of riding the wave? And, talk about degen, talk about tipping, talk about whatever you want that you like or don't like or have used or don't use. What has been the trajectory over the last 3 months for Icebreaker for adoption and like pushing product and stuff?
I have a comment on this. Yeah, the degen has obviously changed the whole platform. I have a daily allowance. I'm sure you have one as well.
I think you got a lot.
I got an amount, and I think the way, I don't know, looking at the Dune query, it was like, I think it was like, how early are you? Have you casted? Is your first cast over 305 days old? You get a 3x multiplier. And then what was it? Oh, and if you cast it in degen channel, like all of mine came from the original airdrop, and I was like really surprised to see that. But I guess they did actually reward OGs. I thought it was like just rewarded for casting in the degen channel, and the only time I casted in the degen channel was to ask so I could mute it and tagging DWR because I was like, shut up, just like please get out of my feed. And then I realized that I was inviting the pump into my life, as Ivan from Tech says. And I was like, okay, there's a lot happening here. And generally I midwit meme coins. Like I just midwit the shit out of it, right? And I'm like, okay, I have to left curve this because I'm like 90th percentile right. But I can't close that 10%, the 5, whatever, I'm somewhere in that. And I'm like, okay, I can go left. Like I have to go left. So what is left curve doing, and what does left curve look like? And why are these people just like so fired up about this? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna embrace degen, which was like a conscious flip for me, and it was hard to do because I didn't generally like. I was railing against it, and I was like annoyed. I'm like, you're ruining my network, like old man, like get off my lawn, get off of my lawn, you degen kids, you know. And but I was like, okay, let's lean into this, and then I was like, okay, this is interesting. Now I get a marketing budget every day. So what should I do with that? Like that's actually like that mechanic design is good and bad depending on who is the person with the allowance, right? Like it incentivizes a lot of people to just like basically run engagement farming in the post season 1, right? Like season 1 airdrop that was like the original claim was more based on previous Farcaster activities, so that's probably the best drop. And the subsequent seasons have been rewarding engagement farming behavior, and that's where we've seen huge influx of airdrop farmers, and which is like no fault against them, like get the money, but it's also really decrease the original Farcaster 1 like signal zone. Anyway, all of that to say, now I have this marketing allowance that I have to use every day. That's awesome. That's dope. And the number went up, and now I'm like, I have $700 to give away today. What do I want people to do on Icebreaker? Like, I'm like, I better spend 30 minutes figuring this out. And so I was just like, not consulting anybody and being like, everybody go to Icebreaker and sign up right now. And I'll tip you 1,000 DGen. You know, and just like running these through, like, to, you know, Dan is like, no, like, wait. And I was like, well, I have all this money. Like, I'm gonna put him over here. Like, might as well run him through the machine. But all of that to say, it was interesting to see, because like the one that I really liked was right after we launched linked accounts, I said, go link your Farcaster, link your GitHub, no, link your Twitter, and optionally link your GitHub. And this is actually because of the Bountycaster integration. Those were the 3 channels they were chasing. So I was like, oh, I'll post a DGen tip out with this, and I tip out my whole balance in like 25 minutes. But I did that, and then the users that came through and did it were not the high value original Farcaster people, right? Because they are not there looking for tip comments. You know, like we'll get like friends, right? Like you and other people that are friends of us in the platform are coming through, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, nice. So we have linked accounts. Like, great, that's a nice update. But driving the original, like the people that are there, like completing the steps. I mean, what it showed me is that the product does work. Like, this is great. Now I can see your linked accounts, and now I have an informed opinion about your rank, which I suspected, and is now confirmed by the linked accounts that you've added to your Icebreaker profile. So when somebody does link up their accounts in their profile, it is extremely insightful and a great tool to assess what is this person's like basically career and kind of, you know, tech expertise or lack thereof. And it's really a quick way to see that. So I'm really excited to be signal extracting and continue to improve that flow. And now for me, the next one is like, I've never had $700 to give away before every day. So that is a new muscle that I'm building, and I'm excited to run better experiments, really targeting, people with like badass GitHubs.
Yeah. I add to that like the degen dynamic has been really exciting to see, because for a long time we had this thesis that it actually starts from us originally looking at, okay, how do we make people's data self-sovereign? And then realizing, well, even if we can do that, we don't have a good place to store it that we feel safe about storing, because either we can access it, or it is stored in some decentralized repository that either is hackable, or the users might lose their keys and then screw themselves up. So we were like, well, what if we just focus on the connections between people instead, while we're waiting for these primitives to kind of mature so that we can use them? And then we realized, wait a second, you actually don't need any data about who somebody is if you just know who they trust and who trusts them. Because like, if I just say an anon address is like highly trusted by me and really, really strong at product, and if you know me and you trust me for product, then that's actually, you don't need to know anything else to be able to feel like, oh, this person I probably should speak with. And that's really, really interesting. And so we had started exploring, like, what if we could re-architect the way that recommendations work on the internet, starting with hiring, but really you could apply it to anything, like a person, a product, a place, a business, right? Like, these all get better with recommendations, and word of mouth is just an example of like a peer-to-peer IRL recommendation. What if we could enrich all of that with these trust graphs? And so this one way of talking about like tracing a graph out and potentially repeating that infinitely many times is this concept of recursion, which is like, you run a function and then you run the function on the result of the function and do it over and over and over again. And we had this thesis that like you could actually do this with these recursive trust graphs, and you could do recursive incentives too, but we'd never seen it played out. And then degen launched, and degen is like it's left curve mimetics, but it's actually like right curve, big brain architecture. And it is, in my opinion, like it's now set a new standard for what airdrops can do, because previously airdrops were like one entity basically saying, okay, I'm going to decide who gets all the tokens, and you get some, and you get some, and you get some. And then they're trying to reward the best people. But the way that degen has shown us is that it's actually way more powerful if you can basically reward people and then make them not only rewarded directly, but now imbue them with power that allows them to re-reward those people with like your token allocation. And you can design it in a way where it's like you lose it or use it or lose it. So it's actually really, really brilliant. And it allowed us to see what happens when you actually do use some incentives with these dynamics. So it made us very, very bullish on this kind of model. I think we're still seeing what are the exact right ways that you design a recursive incentive structure. But I'm really excited seeing now, like we have basically a new phase of experimentation that we all get to learn from because it's crypto and it's open.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you guys have hyper right curve takes on being left curve. It's like, I feel like that's very much the Icebreaker brand. It's like, how could we be really smart about being dumb? Right? I think
it's hard. It's really hard to be dumb. It's actually really hard. It's like really hard. It's like
speak for yourself. Like, okay, don't drag me.
No,
I mean, curve.
No, I'm not even saying like. Yeah, I maybe I. Sometimes I think we're Pinky in the Brain. Like I'm Pinky and Dan is the brain. Like is the height and everything. Like I bring the dumb.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wish we had time to talk about Talda too. There's so many things to talk about. We're running low on time. But you guys said a lot of great stuff. Just to inject my own branding here for a second, I think, on the growth side, degen is definitely allowing people to fuck around and find out, which is great because everyone is experimenting with this, at least, OGs or whatever. Even people with like much smaller budgets are figuring out like what you can get done with it. I think the most interesting I did recently was like I put a bounty caster up for anyone who wanted to like drop a sound XYZ track that would be like the intro and outro. And like, I'll just give my whole tip balance, which is a pretty decent amount of money for just like giving me basically the rights to a track that I can use for this if you already are doing those things. And then I get like a lot of this really high quality engagement, like very like serious, like music producers have been contributing things just for the idea of like, it's worth the reward and maybe some publicity. Whereas I feel like a lot of people are going to find out that, initial experiments, Jack, no shade, which Dan poo-pooed on after, like 100 degen to do something, it's almost LinkedIn anti-signal, right? It's like if you're willing to do almost anything for 100 degen, you are telling on yourself just a little bit about what type of user you are. And I suspect people will double back because it's all on chain or at least on hubs. And I think some people are going to tell on themselves a little bit over the years.
Experimentation if it's low effort to do. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And most of what I do is low. This podcast is probably the highest ever thing that I've ever done personally. So we'll see how it goes. Most of my stuff tends to be low effort. That's where I shine, I think. I want to talk about Bro really quickly and Bromero because it's just not fair to not talk about it. As cast actions are interesting. Cast actions have been fun because they're not really in the feed. I feel like they haven't had the viral moment that Frames did because like everyone could like screenshot it and like you'd use it for like, you use it for go-to-market or attribution or whatever people are using it for. Tell me briefly about Bromero, and then we'll make sure that we plug all the things that people should do with Icebreaker today if they are part of the tribe. This isn't for everyone. This isn't for everyone. This is for people who vibe with this shit. I'm taking that very seriously now. But first, Bromero, I'm a bro. I'm very proud of you.
You are a bro.
Yeah. Jack.
Hell yeah, bro.
Tell me, what's going on?
Anybody can be a bro.
Anybody is a bro. Bro is a all-inclusive term. what is going on with it? Yeah, we made the cast action, and I don't know how much I should say, honestly. Like the bros are cooking. The bros are cooking right now.
Okay, that's fine. If that's all you can say, that's fine. It's funny. Before this guy, I said, "Is there anything we shouldn't talk about?" And of course, bro is the thing
I
that we
didn't
need
even
to.
think. I didn't even.
Bro is the thing. Like, I've got some very
Like,
very serious stuff going on in the bro
yeah,
channel.
bro. Yeah.
Maybe we can explain the the human attestation that this sort of started from. So
Yeah.
for those who may not be familiar, we had started launching, I'd say like experimental attestations where like you can endorse somebody for something, and a pretty low a low risk attestation to make about somebody is that they are a human, right? So we figured it'd just be a fun way to like allow people to click a button in our app, which actually under the hood makes an Ethereum attestation service attestation from your address to the recipient's address, which now can be indexed, and you can like choose whether to display it on your profile or not. And we thought that it's an interesting alternative approach for sort of Sybil resistance on the internet using recursive trust graphs versus using like passive or active biometric authentication, right? Where I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive solutions, but like knowing who's a real person and who's not is actually a non-trivial problem on the internet. Really, we're focused more on knowing whether somebody's an awesome person to work with and whether they're really awesome at what they do in the professional context. But whether somebody's human is a good starting point for figuring out the other things. So we'd like been experimenting with this. We actually launched a cast action to experiment with doing this in the context of the feed. And I would love to talk more about, I think cast actions are underappreciated right now. And they're actually way more impactful than frames, at least in their current forms. We just don't have the right ways of like making the cast actions viral right now, but we are about to light up our first bot, which will basically like post when somebody uses the cast action. And I think having those kinds of dynamics where like you get to see the cast actions being used is going to help those a lot, because if you think of them as a means of, in context of what you're doing, actually conducting some action that's outside of that app but using your stored identity, that is really, really powerful. And so I actually want to have like a cast action button across the internet that could be powered by Icebreaker for some of them, but it could be powered by anybody else, right? And now you can basically annotate the internet and take actions from different pages and do all kinds of crazy things that we haven't even thought about yet. So we basically then just copied bro as if, what if it's another way of attesting somebody is a human or a bro, right? Every human is a bro, and maybe vice versa. And then what would we do if we could then build around that and actually test our system for what happens when people try to get in to the system, and how we can basically regenerate the trust graphs when we have people who are trying to game the system, which is really the ultimate test. And I'd rather experiment and figure out where it breaks versus launch something meant to be durable and then have it break.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we can go a little bit longer if you want to talk more. If you guys have the time and you want to talk about cast actions, I'd love to. I never tire of hearing you guys talk about right curve, left curve stuff. But I will say that from my perspective, the reason I sort of got obsessed with bro, and I feel like it's always intentional with you guys, but sometimes it's hard to say. It's like the first one is like the innovations always look like toys, right? This is exactly what you're talking about with like the phones and stuff like that. Like it's just fun. Like it looks like a toy, and that's how you figure out all these things underneath. But there's something very emotionally compelling about broing someone, right? About like the fist bump, right? There's like, and like you don't have to explain it all, and it's cool.
Yes.
I appreciate that you do, because it's very interesting. But just immediately, as soon as I installed the cast action, and now that I've heard what it's for, it's like I would never send a bro to a non-bro. Like it's very obvious that like you can't just like bro out with anyone. You know what I mean? And it's like whether that person's a real person or not, like you guys will figure all that stuff out in the long term. But like I would never be like looking at some spammer and being like, you know what?
They get a bro.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not,
no, dude,
yeah.
it was like, this was like the most distilled left curve thing I've ever done. Like,
yeah.
Which is just like, Yeah, put it in my like trophy case. You know, like, like it's just so stupid. Like top stupid award goes to me for Bromero.
Romero's great.
Like
Yeah.
it's just so funny. And I mean, I didn't even actually. I think I even stole that because I think my response to him, the original cast, I think my response was Dan Romero, bro. And then somebody said, no, it's Dan Bromero. And I was like, I am an idiot. Like, how did I not see that? Like, how did I not see that one?
Well, dude,
You
that's
know?
like Art Lou made farts, right?
Yeah.
And then I was talking with Kristen, or like on a Lonely stream. I was like, yeah, it's Fart Lou. She's like, did you just make that up? I was like, I thought that was the whole point. Like, I thought it was, like it's Fart Lou. That's why it's funny. His name's Art, and
Yeah.
he's letting you fart on people, and there's fart shields and all these things, and he's quite the tinkerer. So I love that. But yeah, bro, I was really proud of my Brojack Horseman, which
It's
I
great.
came up with earlier today.
Yes.
But that was in the
I
reply.
mean, it's just like infinitely remixable and memeable. It's just chef's kiss.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there is, if you want to get into it, I was just looking there. There's actually bro and bros that already exist as channels. So I was like, didn't realize that when I smooth brained the channel the other day, but it worked. I mean, like I didn't expect anything. I casted twice about it, and then I went to bed, and then it was 3,000 people in the channel, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing this.
Dude, that's what happened with me and Wolf's, because like I was trying to, it's like July's got this cool personal channel, Jack's got design, it's got like 100,000 followers. Like I need something cool, and I've been trying to grow this growth channel. Just like I don't know, it also felt kind of disingenuous because like I just made it because I was like, we should probably have a place to talk about this. But like what I learned with growth, and this is no shade to anyone in particular, but like it's kind of like BD and like Web 2. It's like no one wants to hear them talk. Like I feel like it's the growth person in Web 3 that like everyone's like, dude, no one cares, man. Like it's just like not that interesting. Like there's definitely some people with some differentiated opinions, but like broadly speaking, I feel like the BD guy at Salesforce is your airdropper Web3 marketer, like your Discord manager in Web3. And just like I just always find myself in the position surrounded with people that like no one wants to hear talk. So I don't know. You guys feel that? You guys like tired of like talking about
I appreciate you, your personal channel, and growth. I appreciate all the takes.
Okay.
Like I'm like good. I'm in growth. I need to learn. Like teach me the way.
There's some good stuff in there. I think there's I think the thing I like about growth most, there's a lot of very curious people who are like trying to learn things. And like I think for that it has been strong. But there's definitely, and I'm not here to like ban people or anything, but like, dude, Jack, you're in design. like I don't know, Dan, does he bitch to you about like the crazy
Dude,
stuff?
I showed Dan my review of Design Channel, and he was like, whoa, don't ban. I'm like, ban. He's like, whoa. I was like, no, they're dead. Bye. Gone.
I think it's important. I think this is exactly what we're talking about. Like it's not for everyone, and that's fine. Like if you're not gonna follow norms, whatever it may be.
If I see another interior, like a AI picture of an interior home, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like they're just like, do you like the design? And I'm like, ban. Like, no, I don't.
Dad's like, that's a user. It could be a DAO.
Like I'm curious when like the mod stats come back. Like there's gonna be some point where we show like the moderation stats, and it's gonna be like auto mod 1 million, and then like Jack 500K, and then like everybody else like 23.
That would be an interesting airdrop to do also for somebody who's in an airdropping mood. Yeah, like to basically publish and then reward the people who've actually been moderating the channels based on the size and like engagement in those channels. That would be really cool, because the way it works right now is you have a bunch of, and this is based on what Jack has showed me. I'm not really like online enough to moderate, but there are a ton of moderators to some of these channels, and one is basically doing a majority of the work, or just a couple, and others are kind of there hanging out. So that would be interesting when we get the stats.
I think that's something that actually I would totally encourage you guys to look into. I've been talking to a lot of people about this, is like the whole like advertising model and like pin casts and frames. Like there's a lot of tools in place that are sort of like monetize it. And I was talking to Icebreaker Note about this a little bit as well. He's got an interesting story because he just kind of like threw out like, Dan was like, what channels do you guys want? He's like, tabletop gaming.
No, we were just talking to him. Yeah.
Dude, he's such a trip. He's such an interesting guy. And he's like, dude, I have like 4,000 followers, but there's 40,000 people in tabletop. And like, I thought this was a niche thing that no one cared about. Like, turns out a lot of people love Catan. So that's how the game goes.
Well, that's the top level funnel into Warpcast because it's in the suggested stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if your channel's in there, you're basically minted. Like
Yes.
this is just the leaderboard. This is the hidden leaderboard that exists for channels and for people.
Yeah. And that's one thing Dan gets really well is like just out here like blatantly rewarding anyone who's gonna retain DAO. And I think it's great. I think you can align incentives that way. All right. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know everyone's busy and Jack has, well, he's got to go moderate. He's got to go ban some people. Dan's got a problem.
Gotta go banning again.
Jack has to go ban some people. Icebreakers. Who should join? What do you do when you get in there? What makes a good profile? Just like rattle off some stuff that like is super high prio for anyone who like, I think what I really believe with this podcast that I'm hoping is like, I'll like put out some stories so people might not even like know exactly what Icebreakers is, but they're like, damn, Jack and Dan are super fucking smart. Whatever they're building, I want to go be involved with. So for people who think that, what's the next step to work with you guys and test some stuff out?
Yeah, I would say you can start by connecting with Jack and me at the links in our names. And really who it's for is if you are a strong builder with a very broad definition of builder, like basically are you working full-time in Web3? And you think at some point you might be hiring people or selling to other people or looking for a role, then you are doing it wrong if you're not using your trust graph on Icebreaker. And we've been building really out this like interoperability recently. So the default is actually to sign in with Warpcast, where it will automatically generate your profile and it links back to Warpcast as a verified account. We have integrations increasingly with like Bountycaster, and there are a couple others in development. And the whole idea is like interoperable identity, where you can bring your network and your trust with you anywhere and then use it when you need to, for example, like get a job or find somebody awesome or find a product for your startup. Like that's our vision and what excites us about the future of the internet that can only be done with decentralized identity.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I was actually looking at the Bountycaster job board and I was like, oh, so happy about this Icebreaker integration. What did I and I love Lyndon and Parab. So like so yeah, I'm super excited for that. Jack, anything to add? Closing comments? Can we get a bro from you?
Just link your account.
Shit in design.
Yeah, come get banned.
Come catch these hands.
Yeah. No, just link your accounts. Link your accounts on Icebreaker. That's what we're interested in right now. That's top for me. And then sure. Tell me what you wish it did. Yeah. Always doors always open. So.
All right. So we'll get you some feedback. I'll link you guys both. I'll drop my Icebreaker in the comments as well. Maybe we'll get like a, man, I don't know exactly how to phrase this, like a bro fish train, something like that. It's phrased improperly.
Bro chain.
Yeah, a bro chain, a bro down. And yeah, we'll have some fun. Man, Dan, Jack, thank you so much for this. I'm honestly deeply appreciative as I get this whole thing off the ground for people like yourself who are super intelligent and willing to come on and share your story. But that's it.
Thank you, man. This is great. Bullish on this podcast.
Oh. Yeah.
Vibes are up. Vibes are high.
Vibes are high. Who cares about market? Vibes are up only, baby.
Vibes. That's growth, dude. That's actually, there's your smooth brain growth. There's your bro for growth. It's vibes.
Growth. Right? Growth mindset.
Yeah. Bro. Amazing.
And on that bombshell.